Israel continues pounding Gaza from the air, smashing a Hamas government complex and security installations. The Israeli Navy turns back a boat from Cyprus carrying protesters and relief supplies to the Gaza Strip. Hello and welcome to the news on CCTV International. I'm Alistair Shuring in Beijing. Israeli aircraft kept up a relentless string of assaults on Hamas-ruled Gaza on Tuesday, smashing a government complex and security installations. Hamas fighters fought back with rockets and mortars. Michael Manning takes a closer look.
Rubble from destroyed buildings lay strewn across the streets of Gaza City on Tuesday after further attacks on Hamas targets by Israeli warplanes overnight. Early on Tuesday, witnesses said Israeli aircraft dropped at least 16 bombs on 5 Hamas government buildings in a Gaza City complex. Meanwhile, thousands of Israeli ground troops backed by tanks and artillery massed along the border with Gaza. Palestinians say 2 sisters, aged 4 and 11, were killed in their home on Tuesday during an airstrike against a rocket squad in northern Gaza. Hamas fighters have fought back with rocket and mortar assaults. The attacks killed 3 Israeli civilians and a soldier, using an arsenal of longer-range missiles than have been seen before. Israel's military estimates that nearly 10% of the country's population of 7 million people is now within rocket range. Also on Tuesday, Israeli Prime Minister Ehud Olmert told Prime Minister Shimon Peres that the aerial phase of the operation is the first of several stages that have been approved. Since Israel's offensive began on Saturday, more than 360 Palestinians have been killed. Most of them were members of Hamas security forces, but the UN says at least 64 of them were civilians. Michael Manning, CCTV.
Well, in the West Bank on Tuesday, Palestinian youth protesting the attacks in Gaza clashed with Israeli troops. Several Palestinians were detained by Israeli soldiers, but no casualties were reported. About 200 Pakistanis have protested in condemnation of the Israeli attacks on the Gaza Strip, which began with airstrikes on Saturday. Crowds burned Israeli and US flags and demanded a stronger response from international organizations to stop the raids. Li Chong has more.
Shiite Muslims, including children, beat their chests in grief. Their signs and slogans all condemned Israel and the US.
And I will request all the human beings to raise their voice against this tyranny of Israel, that they are recklessly, brutally killing all the Muslims of Palestine.
The German capital Berlin also saw more than 1,000 people in peaceful support of the Palestinian people. They called for an end to the violence, as well as increased support from the international community.
No one is helping. Everyone is just looking away. The innocent are dying, children are dying, babies are dying, women. No one is saying anything.
In Greece, one point the demonstrators began hurling rocks at riot police guarding the Israeli embassy in Athens. The police responded with tear gas and pepper spray to disperse the demonstrators. Thousands went on the streets of Sudan's capital Khartoum to protest the Israeli bombardment.
We ask the Arab political leaders and kings of all Islamic states to support Gaza and unify their ranks and send troops there to save it.
Protests were also held in South Korea. Israel has said the offensive is aimed at halting cross-border rocket attacks that intensified after a 6-month Egyptian brokered ceasefire with Hamas expired on December the 19th. Li Chong, CCTV.
Israel's foreign ministry says its navy has turned back a boat trying to carry pro-Palestinian protesters to the Gaza Strip. The ministry spokesman said the boat ignored an Israeli radio order to turn back on Tuesday. As the boat tried to outmaneuver the Navy ship, the two crashed, with light damage to both vessels. The Israeli Navy later escorted the boat to territorial waters off Cyprus. The Free Gaza Movement boat planned to take physicians and up to 4 tons of medical supplies to Palestinians in Gaza. A former US Congresswoman and a Green Party presidential candidate were among the 16 passengers on board the boat. 36 Palestinians in critical condition have been moved to a hospital in the Egyptian capital Cairo to receive treatment. Egypt accepted the injured Palestinians after it became clear Hospitals in Gaza were being overwhelmed. Palestinian health officials said on Monday there are at least 150 patients in serious condition in Gaza. Most of those brought to Cairo on Tuesday had previously been treated in the El Arish hospital near the Gaza border, which lacks sophisticated medical equipment. Israel has agreed to allow 100 trucks of humanitarian aid into Gaza, as well as 5 ambulances from Turkey. A Jordanian diplomat said 21 Jordanian army doctors and 4 field hospitals would be allowed to enter on Wednesday. A generator donated to the Palestinian people from Libya was allowed through the Rafah crossing on Tuesday, and trucks carrying food and medical supplies passed through the Kerem Shalom crossing. Meanwhile, the International Committee of the Red Cross says it's preparing to fly 11 tons of medical supplies to Israel to help Gaza's overstretched hospitals.